name's Jack. Me and my sister and my wife are the owners of Bakarí, Artisan Bakery in Northern Ireland, Belfast. Probably been open 2 years. My wife's from Iceland. We were living in Reykjavík for 4 or 5 years there. I worked in bakeries while I was there, so learned sort of a Danish, Icelandic baking tradition. But we moved back to Belfast, say 3 years ago, with the intention of opening up a bakery. So we had all our planning and stuff done, so we sort of just hit the ground running when we got here. A lot of the stuff that we make here is all, apart from the croissants and the pain au chocolat and stuff, is sort of ubiquitous bakery things. Almond croissant, they're about to come out of the oven. We also we do a lot of Nordic stuff. A lot of the Nordic stuff basically means we put marzipan in almost everything. Marzipan's our secret ingredient here. So that means a lot of the sweet stuff. A cinnamon roll will be a cinnamon roll plus marzipan paste. We make our own marzipan paste, but it's just because it's a little bit tricky to get a very nice one here, and even trickier to get an organic one. So we make ours with organic almond flour and organic icing sugar. We were doing wholesale for a long time, eventually got our shop front, and then this space here is sort of not big enough to have everything, but it's too small to have nothing. So we had planned and managed to have all the sweet stuff here in Belfast and all of the bread down in Bangor, and that's how it is at the moment. Throughout the course of the business, we've been through all sorts of different starting hours and opening times and stuff, but at the moment we're pretty settled on someone starts in Bangor at about 2:30, 3 a.m. and then they start baking, and then someone normally needs at the moment starts in Belfast at 4 a.m. The bread's getting baked in Bangor. That's where we have our van, so the van's going to leave from Bangor at 6 a.m. So all the bread, or the first round of bread, has to be ready for them, and then the van comes to me in Belfast. We have the sweet stuff ready, all the croissants, pastries and stuff. Unload the bread, load the van up with sweet stuff, and then off it goes on their rounds.
Hello, my name is Jake and I'm a baker here in Bakarí. I've been baking since I've been 18 years old, and I specialise in sourdough bread. Sourdough bread is a long fermented bread made with a starter culture. It's fermented from anywhere from 3 hours to 20 hours. The reason why I specialise in it or love it is because it's not your usual type of mixing. There's a lot of processes, and the better the ingredients makes them better. I left high school and I went and studied music for 2 years, and halfway through my course COVID hit, and at the time I was working in a pizza restaurant and I just loved working with food. So I thought to myself, why am I working with music whenever I could be working with food? So I started putting all my focus into making bread at home or making cakes at home while still working in the pizza restaurant. I made the decision to go to bakery college. So I studied bakery for 1 year, and I done a level 2 diploma in bakery, and I got an internship with an ingredient company called Andrew Ingredients, and from there I learned the science behind why bread or cakes do certain things, or the glutens and the different enzymes and everything in flour. And from there I just went from bakery to bakery until here I am now, very comfortably in Bakarí Bakery. To make Bakarí bread, we use the finest organic ingredients. Our main flour comes from Italy. We have 25% of Irish flour, which comes from County Cavan or County Monaghan. That is probably one of the best things about Bakarí bread. To start off mixing the bread, we have to add the flour and the water, and that we let that sit for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and we call that an autolyse. And in the autolyse, what you do is you strengthen the gluten straps to make the bread more stronger. And then after that, we mix our sourdough starter, which is be fed 20 hours before, so it's fed the day before. And we add that in, and then we mix it, and we add water and salt, and then we give that a final mix. We take the breads out, and we put them into boxes, into 10 kilo boxes, and we let them sit for 3 hours with an hour and a half every fold. And then they go to the fridge for 12 hours, 15 hours, or more, depending on whether the next ship is in. And then the next day we bake it, and we bake them at 370 degrees for 40 minutes until they're a nice golden brown color and they're hollow in the middle. The reason why I love working here is Jack, Faye and Freya, the owners, are just the best owners out of this world. The management system that they have is just incredible. They're so down to earth and they're so one-to-one with each of their employees, and they have a real strong fight for organic food and the best food that we can produce to the people that we produce to. Organic means that there's no fertilizers, there's no pesticides, everything's grown naturally and everything is just grown the way it's meant to grow. There's no additives in any of the flour, there's no enzymes or anything like that, or E-numbers. So the only thing that we add into our sourdough bread is flour, water and salt. And Jack and Freya and Faye was very persistent about that.
My big motivation or my big interest in bakeries, aside from enjoying the early mornings and stuff, is that I've always disliked sort of industrial food. I've always disliked supermarkets and stuff, and I've always romanticized the Lego men jobs like a baker. When I was working in Iceland, they were making a certain style of bread, which is the same style of bread we make, and it was 75% of an organic European flour and then 25% of an organic Danish flour. And I thought that was really cool because Denmark, at least to me as a novice baker, wasn't like a famous flour producing place. Of course it is, but it's not where you would have thought of, not where you would think would produce these breads that are going to be beautiful big sourdough breads. And I thought it would be really cool to be trying to do the exact same thing, but with Irish ingredients. And right enough, there's only a small number of them, but there's like maybe 4, 5, 6 organic farmers, and normally they're the farmer and the miller, because there is no big mills left in Ireland, or there's no small community mills left. So it's always these people who are growing the grain and milling it, and usually they're delivering it to the bakeries themselves. So that was the big interest. I really wanted to use Irish flour, and this is where I use sourdough as well. But to my mind, if you should be eating a lot of it, it should be sourdough. That's where I was coming from with ingredients. Yeah, I did some research. This is what's still nice, and researching, start talking to some of these farmers who are growing, and they're all lovely people and they're all very helpful and supportive. So soon, like very quickly after arriving in Ireland, I was able to go visit these farmers and get, buy flour directly off them and stuff. And that's really cool, because flour can be a little bit of a, like, you can be so removed from it. It's like a white bag on the shelf. But here I can send someone a WhatsApp and get my flour milled and freshly and delivered and stuff. So that's really cool. We're regularly using flour from 4 different Irish producers, and that's Andrew and Leonie Workman in Dunany. That's our rye flour. And then we're using Mana Heritage Mill, and that's a guy Turlock down in Cavan. That's one of our mills. And then the other one is Irish Organic Mill. He's our first ever guy we were buying flour from, and again he's in Cavan or Monaghan, Cavan/Monaghan, and he's an organic beef farmer. So the grain we're using from him is part of his beef farm. So he grows his own grain so that he knows it's organic, so that he can feed that to the cows. And then the last one's Oak Forest Mills, Emma at Oak Forest Mill, and she grows, like, what we use from her is emmer. And emmer's beautiful. Emmer's been grown in Ireland for like 4,000 years. It's a variety of wheat that the first settlers in Ireland were eating, and having that sort of connection to the past was really fun. But all these guys I guess they're all small, and they're all trying to demonstrate that you can grow wheat in Ireland, because the conception is you can't grow bread wheat in Ireland, but all these guys are doing it, and we're making bread out of it and trying to show that this stuff it's like beautiful and something we could be proud of, and something that could be done on a much bigger scale. But I guess all that will come in time. For the rest of the ingredients, because that's all organic, when we try and use organic, I get those all from guys in Dublin, which is like the Organic Collective. They're wholesalers, and they've been really good. And through those guys, I get organic flour from Italy, which makes it, that's sort of like our base flour. And it all comes from Bologna. They grow it, and it's all within 20-30 kilometers of the mill. It's getting growing. It's going to the mill, getting milled, and then getting shipped to me in Ireland. And I like that, because there's other flour companies you could use, but they're sort of using internationally traded grains. So you could be getting a bag of flour that might be milled in the UK, but the grain might have come from anywhere between France and Kazakhstan. So I like the idea that it's all from one spot, growing straight to me.
It's amazing to think that we can just access really good grain, really good flour from this island. Usually flour comes from Ukraine, Italy, Canada, but to actually get our flour from Ireland is pretty special. This morning we've been baking some light bread and some dark bread. The difference between the light and the dark bread is that you get oats and seeds sprinkled on top of the dark bread, and the light bread just gets a dust of flour on top and it goes in the oven. We also baked some focaccia and some ciabatta. The difference between our focaccia dough and our light bread dough is that we add a lot more olive oil to our focaccia dough and our ciabatta dough to make that a lot more of a light bite and a fluffy texture. Our ciabatta recipe is the same as our focaccia recipe. It's just shaped differently at the end. The bread tastes phenomenal with the Irish flour in the bread dough. You get that a lot more of an earthy taste compared to your traditional white loaf. The sourness that comes out of the sourdough culture is not sour, so it's just nice and creamy in the middle, but you get a really nice earthy, nutty taste of our sourdough bread.
And our perfect loaf only happens once every 4 or 5 months. So like, of course, very nice loaves on the shelves every day, but like every now and then there's just one that is pops, and or a whole day of like perfect bread. Like the fermentation's just been perfect because the flour changes, and especially the flour we're using, it changes through the seasons, and every now and then all the stars will just align. The last one was on a very stormy day. It's been the last 2 times we've had perfect bread for very stormy days. So if it's bad weather, you have to get down here for a loaf. Everyone's so familiar with supermarket breads and this sort of fast production bread, and we're always up against people going to supermarkets and buying like basically fake sourdough, because proper sourdough bread should have this long fermentation. The long fermentation pre-digests the bread before it hits your guts. So if you take a handful of raw flour, you can't eat that because your body can't really digest it that well. You do have to do some sort of fermentation, whereas the supermarket loaf maybe gets 1 or 2 hours fermentation. Ours get, you know, a full 12 or 24 hours, depending on what the bread is or what the day is. And it's supposed to be in this fermentation that it opens up all the nutrients to you. It's also the flour that you put inside of it. So we're using flour that hasn't been so refined. We like to try and put wholemeal inside, and we like to, even the Irish flours that we're using aren't, they talk about extraction rate. So a white flour might be 50% extraction rate, whereas the flour we're using will be 60 or 70% extraction rate. And we will call that a light loaf or a white loaf. Our croissants, 3-day process. So the dough gets mixed, and for us gets mixed down in Bangor, and then it gets delivered up the next day. It's proofed overnight in the fridge. Delivered up to us in Belfast. That'll be like 7 kilos of dough, and we'll put 2 kilos of butter in there, fold it over, and pass it through the pastry bake. So it's 48 layers in total, which is a couple of folds, and then we put it back to the fridge or the freezer for a while so it can relax, and then we can take it back out and pin it down to, 5 millimeters, cut it into triangles, shape it, and then it has to go back to a fridge or a freezer or a prover, because then that'll get baked the next day. And the baking's very simple: 4 hours of proving, egg wash into the oven for 16-20 minutes, something like that. When it looks good, take it out. An almond croissant traditionally is your leftover croissants, and you slice them open, fill them with frangipane, and bake them the next day. It's like a really nice way to use up your waste. People at Belfast have a very sweet tooth, so almond croissants are very popular. We started taking this as an opportunity so we can bake off croissants fresh through the day, and then safe in the knowledge that they're all going to become almonds tomorrow. But we make almost as many almond croissants as regular croissants. But yeah, an almond croissant is basically a croissant sliced open and filled with frangipane. Frangipane is sugar and eggs and almond flour and butter. And then it's topped with frangipane, dipped in more almonds. So it's really good, lovely. So we make an awful lot of those. The area the shop's in is very nice, the Cathedral Quarter. It was probably like a little bit of an accident, but it is like we have so many art studios and art galleries and stuff around here that they make for very nice neighbours. And then lots of business people. I'm very surprised at how busy we are at lunchtime. I like working where you can see the front of the house. It's nice to be not far removed from the customers. It's nice to chat to customers while you're making the things, and it's nice for them to see all the stuff because you're not hiding anything. You know, you want people to see what a croissant looks like, and you want people to see that it's all fresh. That's like the motivation in having this big open room. I don't know, you're sort of you're aspired. If you're in Belfast, it can feel a little bit like we're behind other, you know, cities in Europe, which it's probably us being self-deprecating, but that's what we're sort of going for. It's something that doesn't look out of place in any other capital across Europe, but probably using the same methods as any other capital across Europe, but with Irish ingredients.
Yeah, so we're just really focusing on trying to build the Bakarí brand to the most that we can build it. We've got Bullet Hotel and Media Hall in Belfast, which are big people to take breads off us.
Thanks very much for watching, and you'll find us on 25 Donegal Street in Belfast in Cathedral Quarter, so you have to come and visit and leave not hungry.